Welcome to 2 Cents Short of a Dollar, the show where we give our 2 cents and keep it 100. We're your hosts. That's Motiz. I'm Rue. Feels like we've been gone for a minute, but man, we're back and we're back in a big way. Today, the Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Bud Crawford presser happened. It was live on Showtime, I believe, on YouTube. I got a chance to check it out. It was really exciting in the grand scheme of things. Did you get a chance to check it out, and what did you think of it?
Yeah, I definitely had a chance to watch it in its entirety. Bit calm, interesting moments for sure. Seeing Spence kind of like lash out in a bit, kind of get at Terrence Crawford, especially when talking about his resume, which was interesting. You know, some words exchanged when Terrence Crawford decided to correct Derek James and his assessment about his accomplishments. We can get right into it, but it was definitely interesting for sure. It's a bit calm, of course, which I expected. They have a lot of respect for each other, and they know it's going to be a big fight, but they both seem confident, to be honest. So what about you?
One thing I'm going to say is Showtime, give Terrence Crawford his credit. Y'all announced him as a 2-division world champion, and he is a 3-division world champion. So please make that correction, Showtime. Give the man his just dues. He's a 3-division world champion. But no, I thought it started out pretty calm. You can tell the respect is there for one another. But you seen, like you said, Errol kind of lashed out, which is what I'm kind of used to Errol. You know, like when Errol gets going, he starts, I'm going to punish you. We didn't get out, I'm going to punish you. But, he started to he's like, man, listen, I ain't listening to this no more. Listen, this is what I got to say. But what was interesting to me, and this is a low-key takeaway, I don't know, he probably was there somewhere, but I was looking for Bernie the Boxer. I think that would have sent Spence over the roof because but you remember throwback like 5 years ago when they had the video and him and Terrence were talking and the other guy just kept talking from the sideline. Errol started getting at him. Maybe there wasn't a Bernie appearance because we didn't want one of those kind of situations. I even went back to go watch that video. I'm like, yo, was that Bernie the Boxer? But it wasn't. It was another guy. Yeah. But I thought it was very interesting when you say resumes. They really kind of dived into that Sean Porter, somewhat Kell Brook as well. But I want to talk more so about the Sean Porter mutual matchup. What did you think about that when, Bud was like, oh, you mad because you couldn't stop him? Like, I stopped him, and Errol was like, but wait a minute. His daddy said he wasn't even training the way he was supposed to be training. So what do you think about that segment?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. I think, and it's so crazy because it's true. Errol Spence has the better resume compared to Terrence Crawford, especially if you're factoring the context of when they fought their opposition, right? Now, when you're talking about Sean Porter specifically, I think the Sean Porter that fought Errol Spence is not the same Sean Porter that fought Terrence Crawford. Why? Because we have two variables in play. One, Sean Porter was heading into retirement after the fight, right? Which has been confirmed, right? So the mental wasn't really there, which also affected, I would probably say, his training regimen, which his father also confirmed as well. And out of spite, he decided to kind of stop the fight, right? That fight, Terrence Crawford still gets credit for stopping technically Sean Porter, at least I would say getting those two knockdowns, but he was struggling in the beginning, right? Sean Porter was definitely getting the best of him in the beginning, in the early rounds. So it was still a tough fight for him, but he ended up kind of closing it out as he should. So I do think Errol Spence is right when he says, that Sean Porter, in so many words, that Sean Porter is not the same Sean Porter that fought me, that fought you. But styles make fights, because the Sean Porter that fought Errol Spence fought Sean Porter's game. He wanted to beat Sean Porter and break him at his game, which almost backfired until he got the knockdown. He beat him. I would say that was the decisive factor of ending the fight. So, and it's funny too, because he even mentioned, he said, yeah, I'm going to break you like a horse.
What do you mean by that?
It's like, he said, I'm going to break him. He said, he says, eventually they all break, He a little stubborn, but I'm gonna break him. I'm gonna break him like a horse. I was like, I started crying.
Yeah, I was like, where's Cam and Mace on the pause?
I was like, Spence, you out of control, bro.
Nah. But I know exactly what you're talking about with Sean Porter. And I even was watching the Porter Way podcast, and he mentioned certain things that his dad wanted him to do that he didn't want to do. He said because he didn't look at Terrence Crawford as this boogeyman. So I don't know how to take that. I don't know if it's a lack of respect or a lack of being able to get up maybe to the level of competition you need to, maybe because you guys have that friendship. So I don't know, but Errol even said certain things after, I believe he was when he was doing the kind of crowd interviews. It's like, when have you ever seen Sean Porter gas out? He's like, look how early he gassed out in that fight versus Terrence Crawford. He's like, you never see that from Sean Porter. He was like, because like Sean Porter's training regimen's been A1, his conditioning has been A1. He's like, when did you ever seen him gas out like that? And I think, like I said, I would definitely give Terrence Crawford credit for beating Sean Porter. I wouldn't say Sean Porter was washed up at all, because like you said, it was a tough fight, until he stopped him. He wasn't just blowing him out and eventually stopping him. It was a tough fight, but I think the lack of preparation was the deciding factor. Now, I don't know even if Sean Porter was like tip-top shape, prepared as he was to fight Errol. I don't know if he would have won, but I mean, there was a chance, because Sean Porter makes every fight close, right? So there's always a chance. But I'm not going to just automatically say that, if he looked like he fought Errol, that he would have won, because like you said, styles make fights. But I definitely think Errol fought the better Sean Porter. He had more to lose. He had a belt. He was trying to unify. Now the Kell Brook situation, I think the Kell Brook that fought Terrence Crawford was completely washed up. And then,
Absolutely. And everyone that knows boxing knows this. I don't even know why Terrence Crawford even tried to argue that. It's over, bro. Errol Spence fought a Kell Brook that was beating everyone at the welterweight division. That was his natural weight class. He only just went up to fight Gennady Golovkin, Triple G. Yes, he lost. Eye socket got broken, but Errol Spence broke the other eye socket to fight at his natural weight. Terrence Crawford, when you fought him, he wasn't no longer a natural welterweight, and he had time off, and he had 2 broken eye sockets. So clearly, you got the leftovers of damaged goods from previously before. So at the end of the day, if you want to argue Errol Spence fought a washed Kell Brook, then what Kell Brook did you fight? Significantly, if he was washed, right, then oh my goodness, I can't even tell. He basically fighting a drowned, underwater, hundreds of feet depth into the ocean, a Kell Brook version of that. Like, come on, it's Terrence Crawford just got to stop, though. I ain't gonna lie, he just got to stop it and just be honest. He sounds delusional when he tries to argue that point.
One thing that kind of shocked me, but then it's probably not as embellished as it looked, because I saw the fit, and Errol's shoes kind of had like some heels on the boots. But at first, I was looking at the height difference. I'm like, whoa! I didn't notice that Errol was this much taller than Bud Crawford. But I knew Errol was slightly taller, but he looked a good amount taller than Bud Crawford. But I noticed in his fit, he had some boots on that kind of had heels.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's probably why the height difference looks so significant to me, at least. I don't know how it looked to everyone else, but I was looking at it. I'm like, I know Errol's a bit taller than him, but it looked a bit more significant than I remembered today. But in the face-to-face matchup, anything that you saw that stood out, maybe size, tenacity?
Nah, not really. I would just say, if I had to scale it, I do feel like Errol Spence appeared more confident, and just the way he was talking, like he was the first one to kind of bring it, to change the energy during the press conference, right? To kind of call out BS from Terrence Crawford's side. But Terrence Crawford's always been a laid back type of person anyway in all his press conference. He always soft spoken. He's always, just waiting to unleash the dog. So I would say they both are relatively confident going into the fight. And I think they're both prepared. They know what's going to come. They both respect each other. So nothing in particular that I would say stood out. Besides, I'll probably say Errol Spence's trainer, right? But I'll probably let you get to that. But between the two fighters themselves, not necessarily.
Okay. The one thing I would say, Bud Crawford, I not nervous in the sense of fighting, but him and Bomac, they were kind of like stumbling over their words a bit, like almost like they needed to kind of have it written down or something. To me, it kind of reminded me of, this is kind of like Errol's school, and they were the new kids in the school, so they're not scared of Errol, but it's almost like they're kind of like on their best behavior in this new school. It's like their first time doing business with PBC and Showtime, and they're trying to be as cordial as possible, because they seem like just really laid back, but almost a little nervous at the presser of just trying to portray themselves the best way. Like I don't believe nervous about the fight at all, but just about trying to like sell the fight. And when they were talking to the crowd, sometimes there was one time when Terrence kind of said the same thing, like in the same sentence over and over, and I was like, okay, like it wasn't really planned out, which I don't want it to be planned out. I want it to be natural, but Errol seemed more confident in the presser, and that could be because he's had bigger fights and like bigger events. I don't know, but it was kind of lukewarm. I'm expecting it to turn up. I don't really know when. I don't think it's gonna just turn up tomorrow because they both have like you said, very even kill temperaments. But I can't lie. I feel the excitement around the fight though. My pay-per-view number is going up in my head every day.
Yeah. You know what I was surprised though? I was surprised that when you're talking about betting odds, Terrence Crawford is actually the favorite right now. It's close, but he's the favorite. That can change, but that's one thing I was particularly surprised about.
Yeah, so like I know like on DraftKings, Spence was plus money and Crawford, is minus, so Crawford's the favorite. But on FanDuel, the last time I checked, Crawford was like, I think minus 122 and Spence was like minus 104. So, if you bet that amount to win $100, you know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna say this, FanDuel, go with your chest. If you think Errol's the underdog, make him plus money. Next time I go on FanDuel, I want to see Errol Spence is plus money. FanDuel, don't give us this both minus. You know what I'm saying?
Minus,
Say it with your chest. If you think he's the underdog, Vegas, make him the underdog for real, for real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's definitely a fact. So what do you think about when the initial exchange, when Derek James brought up, of course, when Terrence Crawford's accomplishments, right? Especially when he talked about, bringing up Teofimo Lopez, right? We know that Terrence Crawford is undisputed at 140 pounds, moved up to 147 pounds, of course, only has one belt, but stopped everyone that he fought, right? And then, of course, that kind of clashed there when trying to compare, well, if you beat Errol Spence, you're going to be a two-time undisputed champion. And I like the fact that he actually corrected the spokesman, because the spokesman was like, you're the only fighter to do that. No, not necessarily. It's actually Clarissa Shields. But he confirmed that by saying the first male being undisputed at two different weight divisions. And then, of course, Derek James said, well, no, it's Teofimo Lopez, right? So I guess to ask you, what are your thoughts about Derek James responding in that manner? And whose side would you pick? Because Terrence Crawford's saying Teofimo's not undisputed at either weight classes, of course, and Derek James saying he is.
Yeah, so that's gonna take me into what I want to get into next, my next topic. But what I took from that is Derek James might not really watch boxing the way he says, because he's adamant about saying, I don't really watch boxing like that. So I'm wondering if the last time he heard of Josh Taylor or saw Josh Taylor, it was when Josh Taylor was undisputed, and he think that Teo really just beat an undisputed Josh Taylor. But nah, I'm on Terrence Crawford's side with that one. I don't think Teofimo was ever undisputed at 135 or 140. I will say this though. I feel a bit bad for Teo because he should have been undisputed at 135, in my opinion. And the reason I say that is because he had a belt. Lomachenko had 3 belts. And usually they'll say that unifications trump mandatories, and they were attempting to unify.
Right.
So for them to, do the whole franchise championship stuff with Lomachenko and elevate Devin Haney, I in the long run, I kind of feel bad for Teo, because I think that fight should have been for undisputed. And, I don't really know how the boxing councils go, but, there seems to be some favoritism there. And, and even look, Errol's always been able to unify and trump his mandatories. So why didn't they give Vasil Lomachenko the same luxury so that him and Teo could fight for undisputed? That's neither here nor there, but in the long run, I don't think Teo is undisputed. However, I do think he should have been undisputed at 135 after defeating Lomachenko. I don't think he should be considered undisputed at 140 because Josh Taylor just simply didn't have the belts. It's not like Loma had the belt and then they did the whole franchise confusing stuff. Josh Taylor just simply didn't have the belts. So I wouldn't consider him undisputed. If he wants to say he's the big dog or best fighter at 140, whether agree or disagree, I will be more welcoming of him saying that, because he'll be like, no one's beat the man but me.
Well said. I actually have nothing else to add to that, because that was perfectly said. I do agree with that 100%, of course. So, I mean, that's here nor there, man. It really sucks, but of course, he's in a good place. I would definitely say that.
Yeah, but like so on the topic of Teo, right? And then I'll talk more about Teo later. But you really brought the Undisputed to my mind. This fight's for Undisputed at welterweight. Like I said, Teo was potential Undisputed at 135 and 140. However, Lomachenko went and collected most of the belts. Teo had one belt, right? Josh Taylor would have essentially had all the belts. Teo would have just been a mandatory. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So let's say hypothetically he was undisputed at two weight classes, or let's say hypothetically Bud wins this fight and becomes undisputed at two weight classes. I mean, that's an amazing accomplishment, amazing feat. But how do you feel about guys not really doing the work and going to go collect the belts themselves, man? They're just trying to pull a freezer at the
Yeah,
end of
bro.
something.
And collect the Dragon Balls, just stare and steal it right under your nose. To me, I feel like boxing just has to have, and this is the conflict of boxing, right? Because whoever holds majority of the belts, right, you get charged for the amount of belts you're holding, right? So they're benefiting on a monetary level. The problem is as you say, if a person just moves up and just fights someone, and we've seen it happen, right? We've seen it happen throughout the course of history where a fighter beats one fighter, now he's undisputed, right? With the majority of the belt, especially in the 4-belt era. I feel like it shouldn't be that way. I feel like it should be treated like the Dragon Balls, pause, where if you collect all the belts and you become undisputed, they should now disperse, right? Should now disperse. You should probably just be given like the Ring magazine to hold, and that kind of solidifies you as the best fighter in that division. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
That should be kind of like that rating. But for you to be undisputed to get that title, I think you should be at least able to have one belt. It should be a 2-step process, bare minimum. If you're holding one belt, you can fight against someone that's holding 3 belts. Or if you have 2 belts, the other person's fighting 2 belts and clash that way. However, I feel like it's always more impressive when someone is collecting belts one by one. Because it's the most difficult road to becoming undisputed. You're fighting one by one. Like what Errol Spence is doing is significantly more difficult than what Terence Crawford is doing. Terence Crawford is just fighting leftovers, and then now he's fighting the top dog, the final boss, to collect those 3 belts. Whereas Spence had to get out the mud, fight every individual opponent to collect one by one to get it from now Terence Crawford. So I always think that's more impressive. That's my take.
Yeah, because Terrence is like he's lining himself up to potentially be a 3-time undisputed champion, and whether you think that's likely or not likely, I just it's just a bit weird to me because, like I said, he'll get credit, but he's saying that would be like make him like the best fighter of our generation, and not saying it won't, but I'm not necessarily saying it will because, like you said, when you see guys kind of doing that work and going through different levels of opposition, different styles and how grueling it can be, training camp after training camp, like there's just something more impressive about that. I always was a bit confused, like why Terrence wasn't pursuing a second belt at welterweight. So by the time him and Errol get to the end, it's 2 belts, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe try to get 3 belts before Errol could. I know just the way it lined up, that wouldn't really be possible, but I just felt like, he should have been going to pursue belts as well. It's like, okay, I got that one, you got that one. I got this one, you got this one. Now let's meet for all of them. But it's almost like, I'm going to just hold this hostage. You get all those belts, and then I'll come fight you and hopefully beat you when you have all those. Then hopefully go beat this guy at 154 who holds all 4. It's like trying to get more reward for less work.
Yeah, he's trying to beat the system. He's trying to be efficient, and so on paper it looks amazing, but when you add context, it's like, it's not really that impressive. It's like what he's doing is no different from someone being a 3-division world champion.
Yeah. And like, I agree. Like, it's impressive because of the guys he would have to beat, but like I feel like you said, undisputed. I just feel like it's something about the journey of collecting them. Boom, I need that one. Boom, I need that one. You know what I'm saying?
Like Josh
So
Taylor.
I guess maybe we're in agreement, but I'll kind of circle back and get your final thought on it. So you would rather see guys kind of go out there and collect the belts one by one, even if I got one and then I get 2 and you got 2, but not just waiting for someone to collect all of them and just trying to get that fight for undisputed.
Yeah, ideally that's what I would like the process to be, but of course I understand there's going to be circumstances where you have fighters like Terrence Crawford that's just holding a belt hostage, and
Mhm.
then he has merit to challenge the other person that has 3 belts for undisputed, right? I just feel like it's just not impressive, but nevertheless is better. At least I'll rather that than someone just challenging someone that has all 4 belts and they
Mhm.
have 0 belts, and now they beat him. Now they're undisputed. You know what I mean? I think you should at least have one of the belts in order to challenge someone for undisputed. So when you collect all 4 belts, I think once you collect all the 4 belts, they should be dispersed.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I've never heard anyone say that before. I think it's a really interesting idea, and it will really shake things up.